Hello, I'm Pamela Davis. Welcome to episode 46 of the Well Done Life podcast. Hello, and welcome back to episode 46 of the Well Done Life podcast. I'm your host, Pamela Davis. If you are new here, hey, how are you? If you've been here before, thank you for continuing on the journey with me. As we all know by now, the Well Done Life podcast is about building community. It's about women coming together, sharing our stories so that we can grow and learn from each other. So I am very excited about this week's episode, but before we get into that, let's do some housekeeping things. First and foremost, let's talk about the fact that this is episode 46. I cannot believe that I'm almost at 50 episodes. And topping that off at the fact that we're almost at the end of 2020, I just feel like amazed, blessed, extremely grateful. So I owe all of that to each of you, continuing to inspire me every day with your comments and just being awesome and continuing to connect with me. Thank you. I look forward to seeing what the next journey brings for us. And that leads me to my next housekeeping item. 2020, I'd like to give all grace and thank you to all the people on the front line right now with COVID-19. This has been something that I've been doing since the pandemic has started, and I will continue to do that, especially as the cases are continuing to rise. And I really, like I said, I want to give grace and reverence to everyone on the front line, but I also want to make sure that I just keep encouraging each of us to try to be kind and to try to make sure that we're doing our part, especially right now. The holidays are tough. And I talked about Thanksgiving, and I hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving, but we're going into Christmas, and a lot of people are really struggling right now. And the holidays are always a traumatic time. And we'll talk about that another time too, but please make sure you're showing grace and empathy to people right now. Everyone's just trying to survive, and believe it or not everybody has it all together. No matter what it looks like on social media or what you're hearing, people are struggling. And so we need to look at each other and just try to be empathetic, try to be just kind where we can, make sure that we are socially distancing, wearing our masks, washing our hands. Like I said, just doing our part. So just kind of wanted to hop on the soapbox because that's always one of my other housekeeping things that I like to do before we get started, to kind of give that quick PSA, because the next couple of weeks are going to be really tough, and we really need to be very cognizant of that as people, especially as we are trying to find some joy, because joy is also important in all of this madness. And you'd be surprised. I think kindness and extending it to people can bring somebody joy that you never even thought they could receive. So that's why I just wanted to bring it up too. Help everybody find joy in something right now, because we could all use it and need it. So those are all my housekeeping things for this week. But I wanted to make sure before I get started to always, like I said, do my part and give that praise and reference. And now I'd like to talk to you about our guest. I'm really excited about her. Her name is Whitney Gonzalez. I've known Whitney for several years. We met through the influencer community, and she's really gone through quite a bit of change. And I cannot wait for you guys to kind of hear how some of her changes have come about. I even learned some things too. And she's definitely a very strong woman, but she's really passionate about social media and influence. And so I wanted to bring her on because, like I said in my previous episode with Leslie Batson on financial wealth management, money, power, and respect, if you haven't listened to that episode, please go and check it out. I want us to start to kind of plant the seeds for 2021. Because yes, in 2020, we are going through a lot of crazy. I think we can all I could name so many things to talk about, but I'm not going to do that because we all know what the craziness is. But at the same time, we have to start to position our mindsets for 2021. And I know that there are a lot of people out there who have a lot of preconceived notions about influencers and influencer marketing. Or you could actually be someone who's interested in starting to make that jump into influencer marketing going into 2020, or maybe even thinking about entrepreneurship and owning your own business. I feel like, again, there are a lot of women, who are going to be taking that jump. So I want these stories that I'm sharing with you to start to prepare your mindset going into 2021 to think about, where you want to be. how you want to position yourself to be able to jump and make the move for yourself, be it either going into influencer marketing, managing your budget and finances, like we talked about last week. There's just so many different things that we kind of all have to start to think about, because those are parts of living the world and life. It is addressing our shit and learning from each other and sharing each other's stories so that we can be better. So, like I said, I'm really excited to bring Whitney to the audience with you to share with you guys, because she's amazing. She has, like I said, really evolved from working in a corporate structure and actually even in a governmental structure to now being an entrepreneur, as well as moving across the country, So, all in the middle of a pandemic. So, definitely want to talk to you about that. So, if you will relax and enjoy, Whitney will be with you shortly.
All right. Hello, Whitney. Thank you so much for joining us today on the Well Done Life podcast. I'm so excited about having this chance to have this conversation with you. So before we get started, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you?
Of course. Thanks so much for having me. I'm glad we are finally getting to sit down and do this conversation. My name is Whitney Gonzalez. I'm currently an influencer coach and social media manager. I've been in social media for almost a decade and have recently, in the past several years, pivoted to influencer marketing. I'm a full-time entrepreneur. What else am I saying?
I know the list goes long, doesn't it? With all the things that you have to do. No, that's fine. Because I was going to say 2020 is all about grace. And I know a lot of us are experiencing a lot of change and craziness. And with you having gone through so many different changes over the last few years, because I've fangirl stalked you and known about you, obviously relocating to Salt Lake City, have the embracing entrepreneurship. How are you keeping yourself motivated to keep going with all of these changes?
To be honest, my biggest motivator is the people I'm able to help through my work and my services. So obviously there are a lot of things going on this year that can convince us to stay in bed all day and maybe just like do the bare minimum. But you like, in my experience, especially with influencer coaching, like when you see those eyes light up and like people actually feeling like they're learning something that they can apply, that can help them change their lives, that's totally worth it, because that's what I've always been about. As a first generation, I say continental American because I'm Puerto Rican, so it's technically the States. So I had to do a lot of figuring things out on my own. Like I was the first to go to college. So I was the one helping my friends fill out their FAFSAs and stuff like that to get financial aid. So since I had to be a trailblazer like that, I don't ever want that to stop. You know, I want to use the experience that I've gained to give other people a hand up, especially minority women.
Wow. With you having gone through all of those experiences, and obviously as a minority, a Latina, what have you felt has been one of the most impactful things that you've learned on this journey through all of your changes?
Oh, Pamela, I think one of the biggest things I have learned is that success is not defined by there's no standard to what success is. You can always define what that looks like for you. And in order to do that, you really have to prioritize yourself and don't shrink yourself to meet anybody else's expectations. Because for too long, I was at tables that I deserved to be at, but I was too shy to speak my mind because I'm like, oh, maybe I'm not qualified enough yet to speak, my opinion. But it's not until you realize, like when you do things like start a podcast and you realize all the feedback you get about how other people find your voice valuable and it empowers them, that you're like, oh, snap. Well, now I'm not going to shut up. Like that's the mode I'm in right now.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that. Because I was going to say, is that one of the things that motivated you to decide to become a full-time entrepreneur? Because I do remember when you were working corporately. So I'm just trying to figure out, when did you know that it was the right time to do this?
So I think when you and I met, I was still working in local government, which I love the job, but government is government. But I ended up being recruited to a private sector job too. but then I wasn't totally happy there. Like, obviously there are jobs where you learn a valuable skill set, but the entirety of the position was not, gratifying to me, and it was a little draining. So at that point I started to look for other jobs. But I never found a job that I would fit into. I was like the square peg trying to fit in a round hole. And like, when I think back to it, my dad is an entrepreneur. Like, he's a mechanic. Literally his whole life has always told me, like, just work for yourself. Like, being your own boss is the best. And I would be like, oh, I'm not trying to deal with all that business stuff. But it was a combination of that, not finding a place where I fit, and just getting the confidence that, like, I do have a valuable service, and I don't need a established company to validate me. Like, I can validate myself.
I think that's great, because I've always, like you said, we met when you were working in the corporate sector, but you've always been very social media minded, very influencer minded. It always seemed like you were about sharing so that other people could grow and learn their knowledge. And now that you're doing it full time, what do you feel like is one thing that you wish everybody understood about working in this space?
Working as an entrepreneur, or specifically in the social media space?
In the social media space in particular, yeah.
So in the social media space, I've learned you need to be very cognizant of what you consume, because to be a successful creator, you need to be a consumer of the platform you're on.
Right.
To, like, get ideas and be inspired on trends and things like that. But it's like, if you're consuming things that make you feel bad about yourself, or that influence you to do things that would negatively affect you, that is not good for you. So you really need to police what you like, who you follow, and what narratives are being introduced into your mind. So I feel like if you're not aware of that, it's easy to lose yourself. But if you, like, maybe once a month, like, do a detox, take a break, and also, like, trim down those followers that, maybe make you feel some type of way. So I wish that's an awareness that I had when I was a lot younger, starting out my career.
Wow, that's fair, because I think a lot of people feel that pressure on the influencer side. You hold on to followers because obviously you're chasing numbers at that point versus chasing your voice. So I do think that is a very important perspective, and also making sure that they consume the right stuff, really thinking about how that works. Kind of pivoting back though. Yeah, go ahead. No,
I love how you said that we are chasing followers sometimes instead of, like, the right relationships. Like, a lot of people I work with worry that they're going to lose followers if they try something new. And it's like, if they unfollow you, they're not your people. Like, the more you, like, hone into who you are, and the more you increase the authenticity you share, you're going to get your tribe.
Yes, I totally agree with that. But that is a hard thing for people to do, especially when you're first starting out. So for you, what was one of the things that you were like, this is a non-negotiable? Like, I have made sure that my voice, my vision is going to be this moving forward. How did you get to that point? Because again, you can spend, I've been in the game for a minute with it, and you can spend years, if you're not careful, chasing somebody else's voice instead of finding your own.
That's a tough one, because I feel like I'm constantly trying to redefine, and I'm still exploring like what that voice is. So it's like, a lot of times I can project, or people in general can project, like, this is who I am, this is what I do. But as humans, we're constantly evolving. But one of my favorite things I've noticed in recent years is how content has moved towards being more casual, less produced, less edited, and people relate to that more. So I love how Instagram especially has gone from the perfect fashion shot and like living my best life to like, here I am with 3 pimples on my forehead. Like, this is me. I'm in my living room doing a TikTok dance and everybody loves it. So it's like, people, especially this year, like, people aren't looking for perfection because it's not relatable. But if you're in your living room struggling, like, I know there are some working moms out there, like, kids are screaming in the back, not paying attention to school. Maybe like the dogs are being crazy too. So it's like, that's what I can relate to. And like, I want to build a relationship with someone like that. Cause I'm like, you know what I'm going through.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's nice that now cause I mean, I know for myself, I haven't put on like real serious makeup in probably almost a year. I mean, the lipstick today.
I love it.
Yeah, like I haven't put a full beat on in a good year right now.
I've done it, but not to go out. Like I've done it for like videos.
Right. And so it's just like we're all like so much more ourselves, so much more authentic. Yes. And especially with everything going on in the climate of our culture with so much social justice issues, so much political issues, I have heard that a lot of influencers, and I do struggle with how to navigate in that. And I guess, what do you feel about that now? Do you feel like the tide is changing where influencers can be more open about their views? Or do you feel like it's still kind of everybody's trying to figure it out?
I think that's definitely something that a lot of people are hesitant to share with. Again, like you don't want to be someone who loses all your followers just because you decided to be polarizing. But I do think if you're in a position of influence, you should inspire and motivate people to do things that are better for their community. So while that doesn't have to look like I support this candidate specifically, you can share about the causes you support and like educate people, because a lot of times you're followed because you teach people things. So if you're in this position, like educate people of the impact of a vote, for example, since we're, I mean, it's like, is the election over? Like, who knows? Anyway, but yeah, so I feel like you have a certain responsibility to, educate your followers. And you know how that saying goes, like you get more, what is that? You get more bees with honey than vinegar. So it's like, don't be super polarizing or like your candidate sucks, or like, if you think this, then you're a racist. I would think just like encouraging people to vote and just, approaching things with a servant mindset, helping people come to an understanding on their own, not like shoving something down their throat.
No, I could agree with that. And because it seems like brands are more open to people being more open about their political views. I've seen like a couple of campaigns come through recently where brands have been talking, like you said, from the perspective of voting and everything. Do you feel like that's going to be a continued trend going into 2021, or what do you think?
I hope so. Because like when we met, I was working local government and I had lived in Orlando for, most of my adult life, had no idea like where I could speak my voice in a local government setting or why I should vote for local candidates, even midterm elections. So the importance of that, I feel like it's a huge part that's missing from our education system. So it's almost like, voter suppression.
Yeah.
And that like, if you don't know that there's a place for you to be heard, you're just going to think your voice doesn't matter and like keep going about your day. So I do respect the brands that have like put out their positions or supported people with different views just to, I guess it's like inclusivity, but also that education and encouragement that people and their voices matter. And this is our country and we define what represents us.
Right. Because I always felt sometimes with being an influencer, and I guess it just depends where you are. I feel like there's pockets where I could feel like there could be more inclusivity. And it not necessarily mean just from a political standpoint. I always used to see a lot of meetups, where brands would bring in different influencers, but it'd be the same group of influencers. And not enough diversity in regards to color or any of that. And I feel like, I hope that that's going to change going into 2021. But I was wondering from what your perspective is when you're seeing influencers and working with brands, do you see that shift kind of still occurring, or do we have a lot more work to do there?
I think a lot of the responsibility is in the influencers' hands as well. So I know you follow Gloria Tanmo. She is really like, she just had this huge campaign with Target. And like, when you work with brands, typically you expect an influencer to do something that's super like, oh, here I am, like talking about how great this product is. But she found a way to make this brand partnership be literally exactly what she's communicating and what she's about. So I feel like influencers have more negotiation power than they know when it comes to partnerships like this, but you really need to educate the brand too on like why you are this way, or like why you're passionate about this topic, so they can see like, oh, there is value in embracing this, and like by supporting this influencer we can reach these audiences or expand how inclusive we are as a company.
I think that's a good perspective. And I hope, because I'm sure going into 2021, there'll be even more people who will want to jump into the influencer space. Because I think sometimes, people see it and they think, oh my God, this looks so easy. I can take really great pictures and I can produce content. Yes. But it's a lot of work behind all of that to get it done.
As you know, yes.
Yes. So as someone who works with influencers and training them, having them come into 2021, what would be the first thing that you would tell them or ask them to make sure that this is the right path for them?
That is a great question. So you're asking what I would tell them if they want to become an influencer, but aren't sure if that should be their thing.
Right.
I guess the most important thing that I always communicate to my influencers that I work with is the why. Like, if you don't have a strong enough why behind why you're doing this, you're going to have the issues with consistency. I mean, I guess we all kind of do, but you're going to lose yourself in it. It's like, if it's not something that you can talk about all day until you're blue in the face, then you're probably not going to stick to it because you're not doing it for the right reasons. You're not doing it for your impact. So it's like, every time I work with an influencer, we always start with the super basics. Like, why do you want to do this? And, what is your mission? Like, what do you hope to accomplish? So I feel like if those foundation pieces aren't there, then, they may need to, like, you might need to send them back to the drawing board. Like, come back with a strong why. Then I can work with you to develop a strategy.
Okay. Because I think, or for myself, before I really got serious, before I found my voice, I feel like I wasted a lot of money chasing behind different courses to tell me how to do it versus realizing that I had to find my voice first. Then when I found my voice, the perspective that I wanted to have, I can work with a coach to help me fine tune it. Yes. So I always feel like, there's everybody, and especially in the beginning of the year, there's going to be lots of people giving advice and, how to join in and how to become an influencer. So I love the fact that you said that you have to make sure you understand what your why is, because you're right. I mean, most of us are not just jumping into this head first. We're jumping into this with a normal 9 to 5 and other obligations. And team no sleep is not cute after 40.
Exactly. I mean, girl, I'm in my 30s and I'm already struggling. I am good at sleeping though. I love sleep.
Me too. And I don't know, the amount of midnight nights that I used to spend because I got to work my regular job and then stay up until dark 30 so I could do these campaigns and stuff. It takes a toll on you and you lose your passion for it versus, like you said, finding your voice. What are some of the coaching tips that you normally, or techniques that you work with influencers to keep them consistent? Because it does become, time management is a struggle in the beginning.
Yes. So something that's super important, and this is advice that I still take myself to these days, is content planning. So when you have, like, even if it's like a vague calendar, like on this day, I'm going to post about this, and you have a general idea of what direction you're going to move in, it's so much easier to push out that content regularly. But also, where was I going with that?
That's okay.
Sorry.
It'll come back to you. Not at all. No, we don't edit. Those thoughts are in there, hon. That's it. That's how we roll here. There's no edits. So you're good. Don't even worry about it. Do you want me to ask you the question and then we can come back to it?
Sure.
Okay. It's okay. We pivot. This is what we do here. We're pivoting. And it's because it's funny. It's still along the same business line. And I'm going to ask you this question because like, you kind of touched on it a little bit before in regards to how obviously your upbringing, it has really made you trailblaze, has really made you stay on top of it. And your love for social media, as well as combined with your passion as a Latina, how does that make you really value working, or how does that change how you work with people when you are coaching them?
I think it helps me highlight the parts of their skill set or the parts of who they are as a brand that they maybe don't place too much emphasis on. So I'm working with someone who is Indian American. She has this amazing curly hair content. And I'm just like, why don't you lean into like, I am an Indian curly. And I've worked with someone who's, Mary Lou, she's a Filipina creator. I was like, why don't you lean into like you're a Filipina? Because this goes back to the question you were asking me before.
Yes.
You did that. I
know.
So yeah, it's like pushing yourself to try different pieces of content, but also having like your content buckets that are your core messaging, but always trying different types of content and always trying to reach different types of audiences. So a lot of times I feel like I help influencers in that way, like helping them see something that they maybe aren't seeing as, something that can help them, stand out as a brand, because when we're learning something, we always recreate what we see from other people. But we all have our different voices for a reason, and like there are those people out there who will relate to those things that we are trying to hide because we're trying to assimilate to make it.
Yes. And that is unfortunately, like I said, the gift and the curse of becoming an influencer, because you just, again, that pressure to like just want to assimilate versus be different. Cause I would love to see content about an Indian curly, because you just don't hear about it. So I'm like, oh, that's a really good perspective. And I mean, curls are not just unique to certain minority groups. A lot of people have curls and need to tame them, and we can learn from each other.
Right. And you know me, like I'm about anything that defies cultural norms, especially when it comes to women's like beauty standards. So like actually part of the reason why my hair is short right now, because I'm like, screw that like long dark hair, like ideal woman thing. Like I am not doing that. But I'm also working with a friend of mine who we actually went to high school together. She has a brand called House of Curls, and it's all about saying like hair is beautiful. Like her main tagline is "Bad hair wear." It's in Spanglish, but but yeah, it's literally all about challenging those norms. And this is something that Saroja, the Indian creator, she says that curls aren't really like we can relate when it comes to like, oh, we've been pressured to straighten our hair because that's the idea of looking polished or put together. So it's funny to see all those trends and like just find a way to be like, hey, like this is me and love it or leave it.
Pretty much. That's like when we were having that conversation and I have a short hair. I tried to grow my hair. Girl, I bought a bag of I was going to braid it and do crochet like goddess locks to try to grow it back. And I tried to blow out my fro. I hadn't had a haircut in 4 months. So I looked like a Wolfgang von Mozart when I really stretched it out. And then I was like, why am I doing this to myself? Like, I don't want to do this. I don't want all this hair, because I feel like I'm more beautiful. I feel like I'm more in control of myself, and I feel sexier with short hair. So I'm like, why am I doing this?
Yeah. And you look great. And like, you have just like a different level of confidence when you're like, yeah, like I'm just going to do what feels good to me. And we save a lot of money on hair products, but that's an aside.
Thank God. Yes. Cause it gets really ridiculous. I mean, with the curls, I'm sure everybody can relate with a curly hair. It is nuts. But I love how you're challenging those norms. And I love how you apply that to your business and helping influencers see that they can play up their natural strengths to help them find their natural voice. So with that, I want to kind of pivot, because now we've talked about the influence. I want to talk about you. So you're doing all of these things, ma'am. How are you doing with everything going on? How are you prioritizing your self-care mentally and physically?
That's a great question. And it's been a real challenge this year. So as you know, like I started my own business last year. So that in and of itself, I feel like is juggling. But then I moved across the country for a relationship. And then I don't know if you know this, but then my relationship didn't work out. So I'm here and I'm really having to like not only redefine myself as a professional, but also redefine myself, rebuild my entire life essentially, because I could run away back home, but it's like, no, like I'm in this position because, you know, somebody put me here, like the universe, God, whomever put me here, and I'm restructuring. But I just feel like anytime that my day becomes too much, or anytime that I feel like my body is telling me like, oh, let's take a nap or let's give up today, then I think like, did I do my self-care today? And a lot of times the answer is no. So right now I'm talking to you from my self-care corner. I have this like really great reading chair that I love. And on this table right next to it, I have a journal, I have a devotional book and my Bible, and I have one of those five-year diaries. Do you know those? Like you write one line a day. And then I also have a notebook where I write my daily affirmations. So that is a routine. I sit here, like meditate, and then run through everything else. But if I don't do that, my day is not as centered as it should be. And like, especially with the holidays coming around, it's been hard to like get to it. But even if I can't do it in the morning, like I can take 10 minutes and meditate later. So it's things like that. Also, I want to touch a little bit on journaling because it's, I guess it's one of those things that is like a typical self-care thing, but I want to say that self-care is also allowing yourself to be yourself. Like, don't try to change who you are. So through journaling, I'm able to discover and then revisit, like, who am I and what opinions do I have? Like, just letting your mind run is just an ultimate form of self-care that I'm a huge fan of and definitely recommend.
Whoa. I'm just floored by all that. Cause so man, wait a minute. So you moved across the country with a relationship. Unfortunately, the relationship didn't work out. You had the balls not to come back home and stay out there, and you're rebuilding your life and you're devoting daily time to yourself to journal. I commend you. Like, I have to clap that up because
it is not easy.
Ooh, but that is that's ballsy. That is ballsy as hell. And I commend you for that. And I think it's great. You're doing awesome.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. Oh my gosh. And you're managing your business that way. So, okay. How do you stay so organized? I mean, like, for real.
You know, this is the second time this week someone has told me I'm so organized, and I'm like, where? Because I feel like I'm not. I really don't feel like I'm organized at all. Like, I don't even know where to go with this answer because I just feel like I'm a complete mess. Like, there was some point at the beginning of this year where I was really good about keeping up with my planner, my calendars, my monthly goals, and my monthly mantra, but that has all gone out the window with 2020. But I think as long as you have like some semblance of a routine, you can just keep on chugging along. Okay. And like, don't deny yourself. Like, don't make yourself suffer. Like, that's another thing that I like as an entrepreneur is it's like, I'm allowed to be human. So like, I don't need to rush anywhere at 7 a.m. I can like, if I feel bad, I can sleep until, I don't know. I don't really sleep in a lot, but
if you need to, like,
I'm allowed. I'm allowed to be human. So I always recommend people be conscious of that. Like, you know, you got to take care of yourself. You're all you have, like all those cliches, but there's only one you. So like, don't waste yourself for anything.
Well, obviously you're not wasting yourself, because I was going to ask, like, you know, with your business and everything you're doing, how are you balancing your time on social media? But it doesn't sound like that's an issue for you, or do you struggle with that still too?
TikTok has been an issue for me because it's so amazing. I can spend all day on there, but I have my days. Oh my God, it's amazing. I'm obsessed. I do have a timer on my phone. I think my limit is 3 hours for all social media.
I do that too.
And sometimes I have to ignore it because a lot of my work is on social media. So I just try to be cognizant. You know, that's something that like over my career, it's like, yeah, I'm on Facebook working, but like most of the time you're not. So I've just tried to be more cognizant of like what is actually work time and what is actually me just like fooling around in the squirrel hole.
Yeah, because that squirrel hole really gets you sometimes. I know I have to like lock my Instagram between certain hours so I can actually do my job. Like, it's really hard.
Yeah. And I mean, that's another thing too, like when it comes to how you start your day. And like I touched earlier about like managing what you consume, because excuse me, you can wake up in a great mood and then get on Instagram for like 30 minutes and then you don't even know who you are anymore. So it's like, what is like my purpose today? Like, I'm not as good as all these blondes on Instagram, you included. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, you know, like, wow, like everybody's doing their thing and I'm still here in bed scrolling on Instagram. Like, you know,
girl, you are too funny. I got to just do that. I get up early and plunk it out, because from your training, you're like, Pam, be more consistent. And I have to do that daily agenda. So for everybody.
And I've been seeing you do it.
Yes. I was like, I'm going to do it. And if I don't do it, I will make a video and I will look like probably Who Shot John when I do it, because it'll be at the end of the day. But I'm going to do something because I learned from you the power of being consistent. So thank you.
I want to know from you. You've done amazing, and you've been better than me at being consistent with your agenda and your content. So that's something that I like recommending, because I want my influencer clients to build relationships because of who they are, especially in stories. So is there, what have you like learned? Like, what do you think that's different? Like now that you do that?
I have to admit, the biggest takeaway that I got from you, and you would probably be surprised I would say this, you helped me find my voice.
Oh, that means so much.
You helped me find my voice. Seriously, because when I started the Well Done Life podcast, I knew what my vision was for it. And I really wanted to create a community, but I really wasn't truly tapped into like defining this as a group where women come together and creating that safe space until we actually did that exercise where you made me rewrite my bio and get really specific. And you were like, no, it's really good, but be specific. And I'm just like, screw it. Instead of me trying to figure out a way to involve everybody, let me just really stick to the audience that I really am speaking to. And literally, once I defined it in that way, I felt free, if that makes sense, where I didn't have to worry about trying to fit into everybody's box. Because I have tried that before. I'm not a fashion blogger, dude. I wear sweatpants. I like cute stuff too. I have some cute clothes, but right now it is sweats, Nikes every day.
In a hoodie and sweats right now.
That is my favorite wardrobe, and I don't want to do that. And like I said, makeup, I love makeup. Haven't worn any in a while. So I just need to speak to, I like to encourage, I like to empower people. That's my gift. That's my gifting. So you helped me define that. And so once I did it, it took the brakes off. And I feel really great about the relationships that I was able to make because I finally got specific about what I wanted.
Yeah, that makes me so happy. And truly, that's what will make you stand out to the people who are meant to be in your community.
Yeah. But it's a struggle because you see the likes going up and down, you see the content. And I have to remember sometimes it's algorithm. It's not necessarily content. I do have to challenge myself more. Like I feel like sometimes I'm in a rut and I'm going to work on that. But at the same time, I get good feedback, or when I see my content being shared or liked, and I get those little messages from somebody saying I made their day better, that makes me feel good. That's what I'm in it for now. That's my end goal. I'm trying to build
the best motivator.
Yes, it really does. So I owe that really to that influencer course.
I'm going to go cry now.
Oh my gosh. Because your influencer course really, really, really changed that perspective.
That was literally just a mini tiny week thing. So I'm glad that you found it valuable.
Yes. And that was one of the reasons why I wanted to have you come on, because I said, I know that there are a lot of people who are sticking their toe in the influencer water and they really want to go ahead and jump in. And you can jump in. There's room for everybody, but be authentic. And I feel like 2020 has really exposed that. So I would rather see them connected with someone who is also living her authentic truth and can help them see. You don't necessarily, not saying any judgment to anyone, you don't have to spend $5,000 to figure out if you want to be an influencer. Doesn't take all that. It doesn't. There's lots of different courses. There's investment levels across all spends, but I think it's about finding someone that can bring out your truth. I think that's what's going to give you longevity in the game. So that's why one of the reasons why I wanted you on, because I'm like, okay, she could do that. And she's really passionate about it. You're welcome.
Yeah. I love all you just said. And I want to add that we always focus on vanity metrics. So like, oh, I have to have 10,000 followers to be an influencer. When I know people like who have 2,000, 3,000, maybe even less than 1,000, who make more money than someone with 1 million followers. So do not equate how many followers you have to how much money you can make, because that is so wrong. And that's something that I also, like, if I can throw this in here too, like one of my favorite things to work on with influencers is stop thinking that the only way you can monetize is working with brands. Like, honestly, you could create a $10 product. It could be a checklist, to be honest. Like, literally, that's it. And your community wants to support you. Like, heck yes, I will give her $10. And you know what? Like, before you know it, like 100 people bought it and you're making bank and you don't even need to talk to a brand.
Exactly. Yeah. And that is something that I have to admit, I think about, and I think other people are thinking about as well. Cause I think working with brands is fun. I've done that in the past, but you got to know. Yeah. You got to know, you got to know you can create it. And there's just so many different ways behind it. So I have another quick question for you, because I did a little research. I told you. So I know you're balancing your time. You know, you got the chair, the room, the area. So tell me how the motorcycle comes into the balance of time.
My motorcycle is parked right now because it is so cold here. But over the summer, it was just something that I always wanted to do. And, you know, like, we lose ourselves often, like just trying to, like, you know, do the hustle. So like, I met a friend up here and she's like, I've always wanted to do a motorcycle class. I'm like, hey, me too. So we did that over the summer. And then like come fall, everybody here is riding. And I'm like, I want to ride. So honestly, like, I was like, let me casually look at motorcycles. And I was looking for the same one that I learned on. Tell me how to find the same one that I learned on in my favorite color. And I got a really good deal on it. So I was like, you know what? This is meant to be. But you do know this about me. I love cars. My dad's a mechanic. Like I said, he's also a race car driver. So it's like, this is in my blood. So yeah, I love riding motorcycles. And it's something that, like, you know, I like doing something that's different, that is, you know, scary. But, you know, those things are what give you life. Like, come on. Like, like, riding motorcycles is super fun. Like, I might be super paranoid that someone's going to hit me the entire time, but I'm having a blast. I'm just like, I don't trust you, but I'm having fun.
Oh my gosh, that is crazy. Yeah, because when I saw that, I was like, I know she's always loved fast cars. Cars are Whitney's thing. You used to have a blog behind it, so I expect to see lots of content when the weather gets up with the bike, because I think that is just so cool that you are doing that. But yeah, when I saw that, I was like, wow, she is really like, all right now.
And you know what? Like, people can see that in different ways. Like, you see it that way, but then you're like, oh, really? She's doing that? What a waste of money. Or like, you know, like,
whatever.
I'll just leave it at that, to be honest.
Oh my gosh. They will be all right. They just want to ride. That's really what that is. That's that jealousy. They want to get on the bike themselves.
Stay over there. Stay over there with your car payment. Like, I'm good.
Hey, nothing wrong with that. And like you said, it just feels to me like you're in a growth phase. Like, you are just really not only growing your business and working with influencers, but you're in that growth phase for yourself. So how are you investing in your personal development during this time?
Lots of therapy.
Nothing wrong. I've been there. Therapy is a powerful tool.
Yes. So I have a really great therapist. She is actually based in Maitland. I interviewed her on my podcast. But she's just someone she's the third therapist I've ever seen, and she just understands me in a way that's just amazing. So awesome. I talk to her often, and she is so supportive, and really, she's the kind of support that I need. You know, like a therapist never tells you like, this is what you need to do, but I'm like, this is how I learn. I need you to tell me what I need to work on, what I need to practice, what I need to write. So she's someone who's really great. And I will say the journaling is a lot of self-development for me. Right now, I'm in a space where I am exploring a business coach. Like I've worked with a business coach in the past, but I feel like I need some more direction when it comes to business. And then another part of personal development for me is doing things just because I want to do them and not because it's part of business or something that I can monetize. Because I've had people really close to me that are like, can you just do something without it not being related to work? So like, oh my God, let's go co-work together. And it's like, no, like, let's just sit here and have some coffee. So yeah, just allowing myself to be. But I mean, other than like stuff like getting massage regularly and things like that, I feel like those are the main things I'm doing right now.
That's awesome. You sound like you're in a really great space, and I'm really excited for seeing the growth of your business. And just in regards to you, like I said, you just seem like you're in a great growth phase, and I think that's amazing. Now, I like to ask this question of all of my guests. I'm going to ask you as well. What is one thing that you would like this audience to know about you that you have not already shared with us?
I was going to mention this before you asked it, but it goes perfectly. A lot of, you know, even me being in this growth phase that other people can see, like I share through my content, a lot of my success is based on me giving myself permission. Like me, you know, manifestation is a huge trend right now, but it's like, you can do so much if you give yourself permission. Like nobody is going to be like, check you on the assembly line, like, oh, she is ready now. Like, no, you're never going to be fully ready. So give yourself permission to do what it is that, you know, you have the idea, like you listening right now, you have the idea in your head that you've been ignoring for years. Just do it. Just start. And it's like, you know, what you put out first will always be the worst, but you always get better. You can't get better if you're not, you know, going to allow yourself to do something that's just all right, you know? So that is the biggest thing that has been game changer for me. I would say in the past 5 years, like 5 years ago, I decided to stop caring what people thought about me. Not completely, you know, but stop worrying to a point that it's paralyzing of what people's opinion of you is. So that kind of started the whole self-growth little, I guess it's like a snowball for me. And then now in the past, especially like having the courage to start my own business, it's like, I have to say, I'm ready. I give myself permission. And then, you know, things just start happening. Things just start like connecting, like opportunities you never thought of. Because something I will share about my business is I have been terrible at marketing it. I have not been pitching businesses, but it's like the community I've had over the years, most of my business is through referrals. So it's like, oh snap, like, you know, like things are working in my favor just because I decided to step out on a limb and give myself permission to give this a shot.
I love that. And it's so funny. I wish everybody could see your face, how you light up when you talk about that manifestation, about giving yourself that permission, because I totally agree with it. And it's so funny. I had another guest last week. She said the same thing when she made the decision to become an entrepreneur. She gave herself permission to do it. And I think a lot of us are on that fence, like we want to do it, but are we really sure? And we just are holding ourselves back. So I commend you for taking that step, because I can totally see you're in your zone. And I think it's amazing. I really do. I really appreciate you coming on my show today and talking to us and empowering us to step out on ourselves, and also understand that there is room in the influence game for us all. so that we can now help add more referrals to you. Can you tell us all the deets of, you're welcome. Can you give us all your details on how we can find you? And I will put all of this in the show notes for everybody as well.
Absolutely. I wanted to quickly thank you too for inviting me, because this was as empowering for me as anything that I can share with your listeners. So thank you so much. You can find me on Instagram at city.wit, CITY.WHIT. That's probably where I'm the most active. And you can find all my other contact information on there too. If you want to like see me being obnoxious, go to my Twitter. It's just citywit. But on my Instagram, I usually post about my upcoming programs. I have a ton of reels about influencer content that you can check out. And I'm always open to questions, especially about the influencer stuff, self-development, anything about starting your own business. That's still my jam. And also, if you're interested in exploring coaching, I do have a link in my bio where you can set up a discovery call to, explore if, coaching is for you, something that you're ready for. And then you participated in one of my Instagram challenges. Yes. Honestly, like 7 days of prompts, 7 days of community. And that's just something that, helps people reassess like where they want to go with their content game, and just encourages them to, keep it moving. So those are things that I really, really love to do right now. And if that's something you're in the market for, I would love to chat with you.
Yes. And I would totally say, from being there, as you guys have heard my story of how much it really helped me, but it was fun and you made it super easy. You had everything itemized out. It was really just, okay, you just need to do it. It was like a no-brainer. So you totally have to check it out. So thank you so much again, Whitney, for coming on. I definitely will stay connected with you, because I'm sure there'll be lots of conversations in the influencer space. So you are now my guru.
Yay. I love it.
I will ask you questions. I just want to say thank you again for coming on. And I can't wait to see how you continue to grow. And thank you so much.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you again to Whitney for coming on today. It was just so awesome to be able to have such a great conversation with her. She is really doing some cool things, and I just admire the fact that she really has bet on herself and she's willing to share her knowledge. She does have quite a bit of influencer knowledge in social marketing. So if there's anyone who's interested in her, I would definitely recommend it. Like I said, she really helped me find my perspective. And again, that's what the Well Done Life is about. It's about women sharing their stories so that we can all learn. We all learn from each other. So I hope you guys learned something today. So again, it was a pleasure to bring you this episode. All of Whitney's information will be in the show notes along with mine. Please like, subscribe, and share this episode. I think I've already kind of mentioned to you guys before that we're gearing up toward my vacation time for the holidays. So we have 2 more episodes left before we get to the vacation point, and I cannot wait to share those episodes with you. I have some really cool things planned, but I hope you guys have a great week coming up, and we will talk again soon. Bye-bye.